So we are.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure we were recording this.
We are working for you. As volunteers, we are participants in many of your events. We, in terms of the MRA events, we attend all of them as planners, execution of the events, and overall support for Executive Director Kathy Weens. So it's exciting to be part of that, and it's going to be an exciting year as we look forward to many great things in 24 and beyond. Your agenda today, which of course you've had a chance, hopefully you've had a chance to look at. This is your agenda. This is Kathy Weens' effort to answer many questions, to clarify some, and to give us all a path forward to great success. You may be aware that we've had record numbers of new members in the MRA, which bodes very well for the future. So in our agenda today, many questions hopefully will be answered in terms of doing the most that you can for your races and ways that we can assist you to make your races even more successful. We thank in advance, we thank our presenters. Derek is going to fill us in on everything related to our insurance policy. We're going to hear a lot more about the sanctioning package and what it means for you. Jessica Dracul is quite amazing in terms of her ability to put the message out there for you in your event. So she's going to cover just exactly what the MRA can do for you. We also want to cover once again, run as yourself, and the importance of bid trading, controlling bid trading in your events. And lastly, very special Jen Shapka, who has done such a great job in Sage Creek as a race director, but is also going to give us some tips about negotiating the race roster platform. So that is your agenda for today. So looking forward to 2024, this is what the MRA events look like so far. We're really excited about the ice cream runs. If you've had a chance to attend one of the two that typically take place in the summer months, and always from Crescent Drive, we are going to introduce many more of our ice cream runs this going forward in 2024. And there have been lots of deliberation about what that might look like and where in the province these ice cream runs might take place. So we're making an effort to move away from the south end of town and move into other areas in the city, perhaps in the Transcona area, St. James, out to the north end, and then out of the city. So some very exciting things happening. And the last thing I'd like to point out is the Run for Your Cause returns on Saturday, June the 8th. And this year it will be back to the awesome twosome that many of us have loved and enjoyed in the past. And then, of course, you see other events such as our annual general meeting, the awards night, and Hall of Fame banquet. And in closing, I'd like to mention, I hope you all have your tickets for the awards night coming up on the 27th of November. We have a great event planned at the Norwood Hotel.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I'm just going to go over the 2023 season, just a couple notes that I would like to share with you before we delve into the 2024 season coming up. So overall, participation was up, which is wonderful. I think most events were finding that their participation was up. And definitely we came out of COVID this year in a lot of ways. There's still some, like the larger events were not necessarily getting as many people, but they were growing again. So it was good to see. Virtual participation is becoming less popular, but I believe it's still good for events to offer the option if they wish, because it allows people who may not be able to make it to your event to still support your event. So it is something to consider. The only thing I would ask is that if you are holding your event virtually, that you let me know the window of time that people have to complete that. Usually you give people anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to complete a virtual event. And it's good if I can advertise that on our website. The other thing too is that you should consider charging less for virtual events because you're not having to support that person in any way at your actual event. And you might also consider not giving as much swag to a virtual participant, but that's entirely up to you. In 2023, the season's now over, but we had 42 events on our race calendar this year, so it was very busy. And of course, there were a lot more events that took place over the year that weren't on our calendar. So it made for a very busy year for road running. And it's good to see because it does show that there's a lot of interest in our sport. One thing I did this year is I've been asking a lot of you for your proposed dates so that we can maybe talk amongst each other and see if we can create a more doable calendar as far as the participants are concerned. And so it's a good idea for you to have a look at the overall calendar, where all the events are falling, and make your decision on when you want to have your event based on that and where it fits the best. This also affects our participation in the classic and youth race series because we can't have events falling on the same day in the classic series or youth series. Plus, we don't want to have participants having to choose between one of your events and another's. So those are things to take into consideration when you're deciding on your date. This year, we had a couple things happen. I've mentioned them here as disqualifications on certified courses, unauthorized assistance, and running with another participant's race bib. We are going to be going over the Run As Yourself program that was developed a number of years ago by the MRA, which is running with another participant's race bib. So I won't go into that now because I'll be going into a bit more detail about that. We did have some disqualifications this year on certified courses. It's very, very important to realize that if you're having an event on a certified course with a timer, your event can be used as a qualifier for another event, especially the large marathons. And so we have to be careful where if people go off course, if anything is or comes to your attention, that you let us know, because then we can look into it. And many runners now post their runs on Strava, so it's very easy to see if somebody has not run the prescribed course. So if there's anything that you're not feeling quite right about, or you're wondering, you've been hearing from runners that maybe something happened, you can always refer it back to us and we can look into it for you. The other thing I would like to mention is that the unauthorized assistance on a course, this did happen this year. Unauthorized assistance can be in a lot of ways. For example, one of the things that happened this year was a person riding their bike beside another person for the entire route. And that is not allowed. You're not allowed to have another person on the course helping you in any way unless that person is entered in the event. So, and that includes people, we had this happen too, where somebody decided they were entered in a 10K and they decided to run the half marathon to help their friend. And they didn't transfer events. They ran with their 10K bibs. So that is considered unauthorized assistance. As well, what I haven't listed here, but other things that I just wanted to bring to your attention, more and more events now are using gender, which is using the man, woman, non-binary, and other gender allocations instead of sex. Sex is male and female, and are including a non-binary category in their placings. This is something that we are promoting because we do fall under the rules and regulations that are set out by Athletics Canada, and we are considered a recreational event. And because of that, we are asked to allow people to run as they see themselves. Including a non-binary doesn't really affect your results if you create a separate non-binary category. You don't have to do age groups because there traditionally so far are not a lot of people in that group. So you can just do overall results for non-binary. They will show up in your overall results, and that's fine. Everyone shows up in your overall results. But how you do your age groups is, it is still entirely up to you, but the MRA does suggest that you use the gender categories rather than the sex categories. I want to thank everyone this year for the care of our race equipment. We had very little equipment this year damaged or lost, which is really a testament to you as race directors of how you have taken care of our equipment. And we really thank you for that. The last thing I wanted to touch on was the Manitoba Marathon Fit Expo this past year. The MRA always has a booth at the MRA or at the Manitoba Marathon Expo, and we had hundreds of people that came through our booth. And I would highly recommend and encourage you to, early on, think about the marketing of your event. And if you can, give me any marketing materials that you may have, whether it's postcards or just a poster or brochures, anything to market your event that we can display at our booth, because we get a lot of people through and they like to look at what events there are available. So we do show our calendars and give away our calendars, and your events are on there. But to have extra stuff that people can pick up would be just incredible. It's also the same case with our MRA info table that we have at most of our sanctioned events. Aldo, Reg, and myself, and sometimes other board members are there at a table, and we distribute your marketing materials right from the beginning of the year. And Aldo does his MRA pop-ups, as Lorraine was mentioning, and he also distributes any marketing materials that we have. So if you want help with marketing your event, then please think about the possibility of putting together some kind of marketing materials and getting them to me. That is about it for the 2023 season. I'd like to turn it over now to Derek, our MRA president, and he's just going to do a short presentation on our insurance policies. So I'll stop sharing, Derek, and
thanks, Kathy. Yeah, and actually, just before I get on to the insurance policy, I would like to just do a few comments in addition to what Kathy said about what's coming up in 2024. Lorraine gave you a little bit of a hint around some of the things that we have already scheduled. But I think one of the great things that we saw about certainly 2022 into 2023 now, and we're hoping the trend continues into 2024, has been the fairly dramatic growth in the Manitoba Runners Association itself, and we're starting to feel like that is going to continue and that we're positioned for further growth. So currently this year, again, Kathy hinted at it earlier, we're approaching 750 members. That's the most in recorded history for the MRA, and we have a 51-year history, 53 years now, I guess. So that's impressive. There are rumors that that membership was slightly higher in the 1980s, but of course the records from that period are lost. So, as I said, we're feeling that trend will continue. And as Kathy hinted, the race calendar and the fact that we can publish your events to our members really does help with sort of bringing people out to your events. So the fact that MRA is continuing to grow is good for us, but it's also good for the events itself. And one of the things also that I'll highlight is that we are planning new events, but we are planning to do those in ways that bring new people into the running community without actually competing with your existing events. So one example, for example, is that we are looking to launch an Indigenous run series, both to fulfill our commitments. There is actually an explicit call to action about sport and in particular Hall of Fame, actually, which touches us twice for building bridges and reconciliation with the Indigenous community. So as part of our part in that, we are looking to develop a run series where we recognize existing events with connections and ties to the Indigenous community. And so we will be providing medals to people who complete a series of those events. And we know that adding medals to anything sort of brings out more and more people. So that's an example of where we're working not only to do good in the community, but also to help bring more people into existing events. And then we also highlighted the ice cream runs. And so the ice cream runs are our own events. They are separate. We are looking to expand those. We've got 5 planned already. The Fantasy World in me hopes that we will expand that to actually doing 7 runs this summer, including at least 2 outside of the city of Winnipeg. The nice thing about those runs, like, I mean, who doesn't like ice cream in the middle of July and August, but they are great community building events. And we also do those midweek. So those are run on Wednesdays. So we bring people out, but don't have them compete with your existing events, because we know that the race calendar is already tight. So I think that's super important as well. And I would encourage you, we haven't really talked about it much, but I'm going to float the idea now that as we want to display your equipment or your race material and promote your events at our pop-ups, at our expo. I think there is an opportunity for us to think about having perhaps a mini expo at each of the ice cream runs as well, so that we can get a much wider participation and we can bring more people to your events as well. The second area that we are looking to grow in 2024 is related to just the support that we can provide to races and to other events. So first thing that we're going to be doing is Kathy will be, as many of you know, Kathy is currently on a full-time work but part-time pay, and so we are looking to remediate that and address that. And Kathy will be moving to a full-time position so that she can be available to support you more throughout the year. And we're recognizing that as we move Kathy into a full-time position, and as we are planning to do more, you will need more support, and we will need more support as well. So we are looking to hire a new events coordinator to help Kathy with our own events, but also to be a dedicated resource for you. Second area where we are looking to expand and to grow is in the equipment that we support. So an important support that we have for race directors is the ability to provide things like signs and safety equipment for races, and a variety of extra supports for things that you need, so that you don't have to worry about purchasing that or even worse, storing it over time. So we will be going on a bit of a fairly extensive spending campaign to bump up the equipment that we have so that we can support you better. We're also talking about. We need to decide fully about whether we might actually position some of that equipment outside of the city of Winnipeg so that it is easier and more convenient for some of our races outside the big city to be able to get access to that equipment as well. And the third area of new spending that we are looking at is addressing the timing constraint that we see in the province right now. At present, MRA only has enough equipment really on the timing side to be able to do one event in a given day, and we're looking at doubling that so that we could actually bring the timing to more events, and actually more events on the same day as well. So a whole variety of initiatives that are designed to really help grow and to help provide more support to our important stakeholders like yourselves. Okay. Now, Kathy had asked me, one of those important supports that we had talked about, or that we do provide, is the access to insurance. And so Kathy had asked me to do a session on insurance. So I'm happy to do that now. Let me just share my screen here. There we go. Let me see. Andrew, give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Okay, good. Thank you. So one of the important benefits that MRA has when we provide sanctioning here to your events is that we have access to the Sport Manitoba insurance policy that covers events for a variety of things. And so what we want to talk about is, because not many people are aware, I think people are generally aware of the insurance, but not necessarily what it covers. So we want to talk about that. I want to talk what are you covered for, help you understand some of those key terms. Big hints on the screen here. Commercial general liability and is the one that many people are not aware of, but it is the one that is, I think, among the most important. People are familiar with the idea that their runners and their participants might be covered by accident insurance, but that extends all the way up through to accidental death and dismemberment as well. So we'll talk a little bit about the terms and the coverage around that. We'll talk about also who is covered when, and this is another thing that I think is really important to understand about the breadth of our insurance, because it doesn't only cover you in the 90 minutes where your event is going on, it covers you throughout the year, and it actually even covers you for activities that are related to your race, but for which you might not think that you might have coverage, and I'll talk about why that's important as well. And then we have heard stories about people saying, I really don't need the sanctioning, I don't really need the insurance because I'm getting all of my participants to sign a waiver. So I do want to talk a little bit about why a waiver is not enough, and I hope you'll see as we go through this about the importance for that. And then I'll leave time for some Q&A as well, I hope. I will throw up my disclaimer right now. My training is as an accountant, and I work as a software developer during the day. So I'm not an expert on the legal terms around our insurance. So please take this information as for general interest. And if you have more detailed questions, then we will do our best to help you cover those. The one thing I'm probably very not qualified to do is sort of walk through individual specific circumstances and have you give you advice on what's covered or not. But the access to the folks with the insurance policy at Sport Manitoba, they'll be happy to do that kind of equipment with you, or that kind of subject with you. So let's talk about what are you covered for. As I mentioned, two things broadly: the general commercial liability insurance, and then accidental sport accident insurance, including accidental death and dismemberment. Talking about sort of commercial liability insurance, like what is that? Well, this is a policy that pays out if you ever become legally obligated to pay a compensatory damage because of bodily injury or damage to property of others. So this is example of, one of your race participants, for example, jumps onto a curb and takes out a spectator in the course of the race. So spectators, passersby, property owners, others resulting from the operation of your event. This is probably one of the things I think that most people don't really think about when they talk about being covered by a waiver, because your waiver, of course, covers the people who signed it, but the people who didn't sign it and may be affected by your event are not covered by that waiver. And so your insurance has the ability to cover you for that. Your insurance coverage here, depending on the type of incident that you're involved in, covers you from between $25,000 all the way up to $5 million per occurrence or per person, depending on what it is. So this is a really important general kind of a blanket coverage to help if bad things do happen on your event. This helps you at least cover against the financial impacts of those. Second kind of insurance that is also very important under the legal liability form is the directors and officers insurance, sometimes also known as errors and omissions insurance. And many people are not aware that as a race director, you and your committee may be sued for actual or alleged errors or omissions. So while performing your duty as an official for the organization. So that's kind of, for me, sometimes pretty scary. So you not only be sort of sued for what you do, but you can be sued for what you don't do, even if you don't know that you should have been doing that in the first place. So this is an important piece. This is sort of, I call this this is the coverage that protects my house, because I'm the president of the Manitoba Runners Association. So many people are not familiar or not aware that they are become personally liable for the actions of their events, even if those events are incorporated, even if they have other forms. So this protects you. It protects your officials. It protects your volunteer committee. It protects all those involved in your activity from error and omission. And so again, what will happen if you are ever sued because of one of these terms? The policy will help cover your legal fees and will help cover any kind of payouts that happen because of that. It's not only always about the money. And in particular, we're seeing, as Kathy highlighted and talked about earlier today, we're seeing lots of things happen during races themselves. Things like disqualifications, the whole issue around gender and who gets to participate in which particular events, and which events have prizes and which don't. All of those kinds of questions are things that you could be sued for, and so you could incur legal fees for, but legal fees are very expensive to pull out of pocket. So the legal defense coverage in the general liability policy helps you protect against those things that allow you to enforce your own rules. So an example for me that jumps out is, suppose you disqualify a runner because you allege that they shortcutted the course. If they bring a suit against you for whatever recognition to be allowed back in the event next year or whatnot, you are going to incur the costs to support that and defend that suit, but you might not have the funds available to do that. So your legal defense liability coverage will help you protect against those kinds of actions. So those are kind of the big three around legal liability. There are two others that are covered by the policy, but probably aren't going to be as upfront. So if you go through the effort of developing a formal abuse policy and an abuse protocol, and you submit that to the insurance company, you can actually also be protected against abuse in your sport. So this is referring to things like some of the sexual abuse cases that we've seen, say, brought against Hockey Canada, harassment, bullying, the terms of abuse are quite wide. We are not automatically covered by this. but we could be if we were able to submit sort of evidence that we have an actual program against or to counter abuse. You submit that to the insurance company, they review it, and then they will add that to your coverage. And you, by the same token, you can also, if you are offering some sort of virtual training program, then you can also be covered for liability that occurs within that training program as well. But it's the same sort of process here, where you need to go through a bit of an approval in order to get that covered. So commercial general liability, very, very important part of the things that most people don't think about needing protection from and coverage on when you're running an event. But this is typically all of the things that you need to be protected against, because your event, even though it may only take sort of 90 minutes in from the time the gun goes until the time the last spectator covers the last participant covers crosses the finish line, that isn't your only window of exposure. You are exposed for a whole lot more activities than that. Sport accident and accidental death and dismemberment. I think people are generally familiar about what you might be covered for here. And this is the thing that most people think about when they are covered by insurance. And so this is for protecting basically the participants in your event, not only the runners themselves, but also the officials, the course marshals, and the volunteers. If there is some sort of an accident that occurs during the event itself, then those folks are covered by insurance. So athletes, officials, coaches, managers, as the case may be, volunteers associated with this. And so this is I think fairly well known to people. There's a scale depending on the kind of injury. There's a scale according to what the payout is that's covered on this. We can make people available, or make the schedule available to people if it's needed. There is $100 deductible on this if you ever need to include it. But if you're looking at a multi-million-dollar payout because of some sort of an injury, the $100 deductible is usually pretty easy to cover. So I probably won't say much more about that. If there are questions at the end, I'm happy to come back to this. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of who is covered, because this sometimes comes as a surprise to people as well. And I've hinted at this already. So who is covered is certainly not only the participants, the runners that you see down in the lower left-hand corner here, but also think about the spectators. Again, so, I talked about that example where a runner runs up onto the curb and is involved in an accident with a spectator. You could be, sued from both sides of that interaction. So the coverage does cover your spectators as well. It covers your officials and the volunteers that you have. And it also covers your organizing committee as well. And so that's really important to know, because you can't be there all the time looking after everybody. And so it's good to know that you have blanket coverage around this. Interesting to know as well about the when. And again, because most people think about, their event, and like I said, that 90 minutes, but you're covered actually at any sanctioned or authorized event within your discipline. So that includes related training. It includes planning meetings, as I've said here. Obviously, it includes the event itself, but it also could include the wrap-up party. It could include committee meetings and things like that. So think about areas where you might need coverage. Race kit pickup, for example. The insurance covers you during those periods. Packet pickup planning, not only just things on race day. So really important to understand the breadth of the coverage. And by now you've seen me sort of hint to why I think waivers are not enough. Your waiver obviously doesn't cover people who didn't sign it. So non-participants and third parties, it is typically focused on the event itself. So it doesn't cover the events outside of race day. It doesn't really cover your board for errors or omissions. It's typically only focused on the activity of the participants during the race itself, and it isn't going to cover you for things like suits against disqualifications or placements or being allowed to run in another category or whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to say on that. We have heard, for example, that some people shy away from the cost of sanctioning because it looks like a big cost. For those people, I would say, I can appreciate how you see that. I know money is tight everywhere. But for those people, I actually encourage you to go out and explore what is the cost of insuring on your own. The last time I checked was for an event a few years ago, and the cost of everything has gone up to register and get general liability insurance for an event of a couple of hundred people. You're looking in the $500 to $600 to $700 range at that time. I'm sure it's more now, and that was just for the liability side. It wasn't covering the sport accident side or anything like that. So I think from this point of view, the MRA insurance policy is a pretty good deal, because it covers you at a pretty good rate and covers you throughout the year. So with that, I'm just gonna kind of bring it to a close there. Thank you for listening to me blather on, and I'll throw it open for any questions.
Yeah, maybe one question for you.
Please go ahead.
Is there any need or benefit to do the waiver even if it's not really effective?
Yeah, so for sure, really good question actually. And you typically, if you talk to an insurance agent, there's never enough coverage, and so one of the things that the waiver does is it gets an acknowledgement from your participants that there is risk involved, that that they need to be aware and take responsibility for themselves, and so that will help you in any kind of a suit that does come up if in fact it turns out that the participant or whoever signed the waiver was sort of semi-responsible for something, or could have been involved, then that helps to cover you. One of the things that as well that a waiver does is it helps you avoid sort of nuisance kinds of suits as well, because it creates a level of a hurdle for people to sort of to go of. They need to prove first, if they did sign a waiver, that the waiver doesn't apply for whatever the incident was. So that shifts a little bit of the legal burden onto the person that's suing you in order to establish the case. So yes, by all means, don't drop the waiver. It's a good idea.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question regarding volunteers.
Yes.
So where in a race you have potentially hundreds of volunteers, what kind of, in order to have them covered by this insurance, what kind of information do we need from those volunteers in order that they be covered? Because they can't just identify themselves as a volunteer for such and such a race, correct? We need something from them.
Yeah, so typically the way that the information is structured is sort of, they need to be at least authorized by you. And so without being a lawyer, I would think, like, if as long as you make sure that they do things like they're pre-registered, or that they're at least registered, so that you have a list of them. If you can produce sort of your list of volunteers to the insurance company even after the fact, then that helps the insurance company be able to establish sort of what its scope of liability is. I think so. It's the key phrasing in the sort of the policy coverage is authorized persons. So there has to be some sense that you knew that they were volunteering on your behalf, and you approved them to do that. I think you get a person off the street who wanders into the middle of Main Street on Manitoba Marathon Day and decides to start directing traffic to help. Probably that person is going to have a hard time making a claim against your insurance policy, because you wouldn't have the ability to know anything about that.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So there's a question in the chat. Have there been any examples of races being sued in recent times? Not that I'm aware of in Manitoba. And I want to be cautious about that, because as the question does highlight in the chat, often when there are incidents in the middle of races, they get settled with things like non-disclosure agreements and whatnot, so that people don't have the ability really to talk very widely about this. We do. So I think we've been fairly fortunate in Manitoba. If you are connected into sort of the broader social media scene around running more generally, you will see many examples in the United States, for example, around all of the areas that I've talked about. The US is a little bit more of a litigious society. Their legal system is quite a bit different, but we do see pretty regularly examples coming from the States about races being sued for one thing or another. The legal defense is an interesting one, because, as I was reviewing the policy, it's like, why would we need that? And then I think the very next thing that popped into my my inbox was a case of a race that's being sued for its gender provisions and for not making equitable awards available for male and female categories. And I think increasingly we're starting to see conflict around creating non-gendered categories as well. So nothing. Long story short, nothing that I'm aware of in Manitoba, but that certainly doesn't mean that there hasn't been any. Thank you for that question. So question from Rose, is there particular documentation that we could have our volunteers complete showing they agree to volunteer and that they've been approved, or do they just need to register for the event? I would encourage you to certainly to have a waiver for the volunteers as well. Definitely a sign-up sheet, so that you get some sense that they are agreeing to participate, and you can put a list together for them. I mean, that part of it is just good organization. Good planning is going to help you in many ways, right? If you get a good list of the volunteers with their sort of name, address, phone number, email kind of contact information, then it just makes it easier for you to contact them again next year. So when you're beating up the bushes for getting more support, but those are going to be things that you can do. If it would ever come to a case where you are sued by a volunteer, then just good practice is going to help you here as well. Try and provide training sessions for your volunteers. Get organized early, get organized often. So by being able to show that you've done what you can do in order to prepare them for the responsibility to help educate them about the risks that they're facing, things like that. Those will certainly help with your case. And if it does turn out that you are liable, then the liability insurance will protect you from having to pay out the big amounts. So thank you for that. Did I answer your question, Rose? Okay. Any other questions? All right. I don't know where we are for time, so I'll turn it back over to Kathy. I will just show the disclaimer here. I also did put, I sent to Kathy late last night. My apologies for not getting this out earlier. It's a function of busyness and whatnot, but I did put a bit of a package together with these slides and some notes at the bottom as well that I sent to Kathy fairly late last night. And I am assuming that she will upload, either forward it on to you or upload it to a site where you can get access to it. That includes some of the actual phrasing from the insurance package that we get from Sport Manitoba as well. We'll just include the disclaimer here that I'm not a lawyer, but I'm trying to do my best. So if you do have any legal questions, get those to us and we'll help you sort them out with Sport Manitoba.
Okay, thank you very much to Derek for that. That was pretty detailed and terrific. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your going into everything. What I am going to go into now is the sanctioning package, which is probably the driest section of this presentation, but it is a necessary one. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share the actual sanctioning package. Now, I know that we go through this every year in this meeting, but hang on a second here. I'm just trying to get my ducks in a row. But we do have new race directors that haven't seen the package before. And so I want to make sure that we go through the main details, and I'll try and do it as quickly as possible. So I'm not going to go through everything in here. You should be going through this agreement and package carefully when you sanction your event to make sure that you're doing everything that is required of you, and that what we can do for you as well is included in this agreement. So the first thing that I would like to go over is 1.1. Just to remind you that the deadline for inclusion in the first edition of the calendar, and that's the one that comes out in February and that gets mailed to our membership, both this year's and last year's membership, we send that out. So that's a lot of people. And if you want to be in that first edition of the calendar, that's the one that people put up on their fridges and start planning out their entire race season from, because that's how runners are. The deadline to get your signed sanctioning package in, and your initial fee, which is still $200 plus GST, so $210, is December 31st, 2023. The reason that it's that early is because we need to be able to have the month of January to lay out the calendar and have it ready for our membership in February. So that's one of the important deadlines. The next one that I'm going to go down to is 5.2 and 5.3. So immediately following the event, you are required to submit your total number of timed and non-timed participants that were in your event. The timed ones I can get very easily because I get your results, but it's the untimed participants that I need to know how many there were, because the payment that you're making for your insurance is based on that number. And if it was to come to light that you are underrepresenting how many people were there, it could affect any insurance claim. The other thing is the tiered schedule that we use to calculate final payments. We have simplified this from last year, and it has increased slightly. Where it has increased is just in the 1 to 500 range of in-person participants. We do not include virtual participants. If you had 50 virtual participants, you do not have to pay anything in your final sanctioning fees for those participants. So it was $1 last year for 1 to 1,000. It's now $1.25 for 1 to 500 and $1 for 500 to 1,000. So it has gone up slightly. And then the 75 cents for over 1,000 has not changed. So that's how our fees have changed this year. We haven't changed our fees in a number of years, so it was necessary with the costs of everything going up. I'm just going to go back to 4.2. That one is with regards to the $5 discount on the entry fee that all sanctioned events are required to offer MRA members. If your entry fee for any of your events is $25 or less, you do not have to offer the $5 discount. If you're with Race Roster for your registration, this is really easy to set up because you just set up an association with the MRA's membership, because we have our membership with Race Roster, and Race Roster will automatically check when your participant signs up to take part in your event. If they claim to be an MRA member, they have to be verified by the system. And so you will know that there's no need for a promo code. It will be automatically checked by Race Roster and you don't have to worry about it. The other thing is that if you have one distance that is, say, $30 and another distance that is $20, Race Roster, and I believe the other registration companies allow you to offer the discount just on the distance that's over $25. So if you need any other information about this, you can always contact me and I can walk you through the process of setting it up. If you're not with Race Roster, then you'll have to set up a promo code, which will have to be shared with me and I put on our website. Now, someone who is not an MRA member could use that promo code, but what we do is I offer the service that if you want to give me a list of all the people that have claimed the discount, I will go through them and make sure that they're all MRA members. And if they're not, I will contact those people and suggest that since they are quite aware of the benefit of being an MRA member, that maybe they should become an MRA member. And we've had no problems in that sense at all. 4.3. And this is something that I haven't seen on a lot of the registration sites or manual registration forms, but this is something that you are signing for on your agreement. And that is that you'll include some kind of a checkbox or question that reads, I understand that privately trading, selling my bib is cheating, so I promise to run as myself or use the authorized bib transfer process. I'll be going through this in more detail when we get to the run as yourself section. But what this is it's forcing the person who is registering for your event to say yes to this statement or tick off a box or however it is that you want to set it up, that they have to read this and tick off that, yes, they understand that doing something like this is cheating. I'm just going to flip forward to Appendix 8, which is the appendix that you have to fill out if you want to be part of the youth series or the classic series. The only thing that I want to really point out here is that you have to make sure that you meet the criteria of these series before you ask to be included in them. So the main criteria for the classic race series, and that's our adult race series, and it's a competitive series, is that your course has to be certified by Athletics Canada. If you want information about this, you can contact me and I can give you more information about getting your course certified. It will cost you some money. We do try to help some events with certification, but we of course cannot pay for all courses to be certified. There are a number of courses out there that are already certified if your event's taking part in Assiniboine Park or Kildonan Park, or, some of the major routes in the city, they are already certified. Certification is good for 10 years. The other thing is that all your finishing times have to be accurately recorded by an MRA recognized timer. So you have to just make sure that you have it properly timed. That's so that the results from any event in the Classic Race Series are accurate and official. And I'd just like to point out at this time, the Running Room is the presenting sponsor of our Classic Race Series. So if you're looking for a place to have your race kit pickup, there is no charge for it. Running Room would be happy to have your race kit pickup at one of their stores, and you just contact them directly if you want to set that up. For the Youth Series, it does not have to be a certified course. It doesn't even have to be timed, but you do have to offer a minimum of 2 distances, 5K or less. And this is so that we can offer our youth a choice between 2 shorter distances. So that's the main criteria there with the Youth Series. So that was the main things in the package. Now, there is some information about the, now I'm just going to go for equipment. As I said earlier, we had very few problems with equipment management this year, but I just wanted to go through a few things. The equipment request form that is part of the package, it's Appendix 4, it has to be submitted a minimum of 6 weeks before your event. And what I would suggest is that as soon as you have a chance to determine what equipment you need, you submit it. Because we have multiple events on many weekends. We do give priority to on a first come, first served basis, although we do try to be as fair as possible. And Jim Rennie, who is our equipment manager, tries to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And along that line, please order only what you need. Don't just look at our form and order everything on our form. And that does happen sometimes. If I go to an event and I see half the equipment that's been ordered still sitting in the trailer, I think that's unnecessary. Somebody else might have needed that equipment, or just the transporting of the equipment back and forth causes wear and tear on the equipment. So please order only what you need. And find out what your timer will need for the finish line. It depends on the timer. Some of them need some kind of a chute that you can create with delineators and flags, which we have. Others don't need anything and provide the whole finish line area for you. So just find out what your timer will need for your finish area and include it on your equipment order form. The damage deposit, it's still $200 if you're not using the trailer, $500 if you are, but we ask that you provide credit card information. I do also take a check dated the date of your event, and then I ask you whether I can destroy that check or you want it returned to you. The nice thing about getting credit card information is that it is not used unless there's any problem with the return of the equipment, and it's destroyed after your event is over. Then there's nothing that needs to be returned, or you don't need to worry about anything hanging around. And just a reminder that you'll be invoiced for the replacement value of any lost or stolen equipment. Equipment pickup and return needs to be arranged with Jim Rennie. And this document, by the way, the equipment management document, I did send to all of you. So you have his contact information, both his phone number and his email. And you will contact him in order to set up a mutually convenient time for you to pick up the equipment and to return. If you are more than 30 minutes late for your appointment, there is a $25 charge that will be added to your final invoice for your event. If you have any problems, just contact Jim and he can set up another time for you. That's about all that you can read through. The rest of the information is just about transporting and care of the equipment. But for the most part, that is what I wanted to go through about equipment. Lastly, I just wanted to mention timing. Many of you are aware, but I just want to make sure you're all aware that the MRA does provide a timing service. And so we are available. As Derek said, we're looking at expanding our timing capabilities. So we can time more than one event on a weekend. But if you're interested, I did send out the 2024 contract with the package for this meeting. And you can have a look at it. If you have any questions, please contact me. I just wanted you to know that this service was created to meet the needs of the running community and you as race directors. 2 years ago, we were faced with the possibility of only one timer remaining in the area, and that's not nearly enough to look after all the timing requirements of the events. We weren't looking into going into competition with anyone, and we were just looking to help out the running community. But the problem is that if our timers don't get used regularly, if they're not timing events regularly, they can't remain as competent in their job as they could be. And if that does happen, if we don't get enough events each year to time, then we will determine that the service is required and we will have to remove that service. And we don't want to do that, but you have to understand that we have to keep our timers up to date. So please consider using our service. But as I said, we're not trying to go into competition with anyone else. We're not trying to steal away like timing from Steve or anything like that. We have an agreement with him. So that's everything that I wanted to go over as far as the sanctioning agreement was concerned. Did anyone have any? Okay, Rose has asked, what's the deadline to have the timing service contract submitted? There is no deadline, but of course, the sooner that you get that in, the better, simply because then we have you recorded as requiring our services and you'll be given priority. So it's like anything else, the sooner the better you get it in. Are there any other questions about the sanctioning package? Anything I've missed? Okay, well then I will, without further ado, will call for a break so that you can get coffee, go to the bathroom, whatever it is that you need to do. Why don't we just make the break 10 minutes or 5 minutes, just simply because we are a little bit behind and I don't want to keep people. So it's currently 10:15. We'll resume at 10:20. So hope to see you all back at 10:20.
Can I just quickly take you through the screen sharing, Kathy?
Yes, absolutely.
It should just be a second. I just want to make sure. So
Yeah.
do I have access? Have you given me access to share my screen if I want to?
You
So
should be able to. If you click on the share screen button and then click on the thing that you want to share. Yep.
Okay.
So there you go. Yeah.
You can see a PDF right now.
Yes, I can.
And if I do this, do you now see the MRA website?
Just wait. Yes.
And if I do this, back to my PDF, do you now see Instagram? Sorry.
No,
It's thinking.
Yeah, it is.
So you see Instagram coming up. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that it was following me. Like sometimes there's a difference between sharing a document and sharing your screen.
Yeah.
But it does not look like it's logged in, so that's not what I want.
Okay. Yeah.
Alrighty. So you can see, what about now? Wait, I'm trying to hide these. Hi, everyone.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. As Kathy mentioned, I am the MRA secretary and social media person. Having been described as a guru recently, I'm really more of a person who's addicted to social media. So I'm learning as I go, but I am a constant poster on social media and an avid consumer of social media. So I'm probably perfect for that role in this capacity. So I'm also the race director for Run Sage Creek this year. So I will be going, my first role as a race director. So I am motivated in lots of ways to connect with you and promote your event so that you can promote my event. And I will be going through this trial by fire with you in addition to promoting things for you. So looking forward to all that. I'm going to share my screen. This is a resource that I am going to send out afterwards once I make sure that everything is exactly how it should be. But we have created a little document called Event Promotion, what the MRA can do for you. And I'm going to walk you through it really quick. We're a bit behind, like Kathy said. And it's going to recap some of the things you've already heard from folks today about how the MRA can help you promote your events. But we're really looking at stepping up our social media. And I think there's even a couple of things that I forgot to add and I'm still thinking about as we go. But working with you to promote your events at our events and working with you to promote your events through our social media. So we have a big, happy collective of people sharing. And at one point, I think I say in this PDF, runner FOMO is huge. As a newer runner, I know that half of the things I sign up for are because someone has like elbowed me and said, are you going to this? That's why I do it. I think that's why a lot of us do it. And the MRA really wants to help you get that, are you going to this? Started. So if you provide to us things like, and as Kathy said, as early as possible, your event logo, any graphics or promo shots from previous years, the registration link to your page, that will link to your race roster. If you have an event website, giving us that link, any results after your race photos after your event, links to your own social media, any event associations that you have, whether that's with a charity, a community club, residents association. For example, Run Sage Creek this year is going to be with the Residents Association for Sage Creek. So the Sage Creek Residents Association will probably be included in some of my promos, and we can amplify things like that as well. Materials and swag for distribution, including old medals for display, as noted. I personally ran the Islington and Daggerin because Aldo showed me the medal, and I was like, I got to have that. So I think that's a really helpful thing to demonstrate to people. This is the kind of stuff you can get if you come to my race, and we can help you get that word out by posting it on social media or by sharing it at our physical presence that we have at lots of events. So what can we do with the things you give us? I'm going to walk you quickly through some of the our online presence, but we can set up an event page for you at the MRA web, and I'll take you to one of those in a second. As Kathy mentioned, we can post in the MRA race calendar, which is printable as a PDF. It's be stuck up on people's fridge. We distribute that PDF at a lot of our events. People take it home. It is something you can carry around with you and plan your year. And if you get your race in there, we can share that out to people so that when they're looking at our events, they're looking at that calendar that's physically in front of them. Like I mentioned, I'm on social media a lot. I can repost, boost, like, comment on any race-related information you send me. So our social media platforms, Manitoba Runners, we have 925 followers, but it's going up because I post all the time. And we have a Facebook under Manitoba Runners Association that has a 1.9K followers. So the reaches of those are getting pretty wide. And I'm learning to create things like reels, stories, different ways to utilize these platforms so that we can, promote these events better for you. That includes tagging you in things, tagging your registration links in our stories and posts, taking them directly to your registration from a Facebook, Instagram, or story. We can help you find volunteers. If you're short of volunteers or you're starting a collection of volunteers, we can put out posts for things like that. And a lot of times our reach is going to have the reach of other groups like running clubs that follow our club. that follow our association will then repost for you. So that online network of runners, I think we want to center it in the MRA, and we want to create that spider web of connections. So coming to us helps to connect with many other sets of connections that then fan out. We can also schedule posts in advance for you. So if you know, for example, when you're going to want to start your early bird, when you're going to want to send out reminders, when you're going to want to do your last chance to register, that sort of thing, we can send out those posts for you, and we can schedule them in advance if you have a schedule of communications you want to follow. And we also use something called Linktree. I'm going to show you all of these at the end so that I don't have to bop around too much. But we can put your registration links for your races directly in our link in bio on Instagram and Facebook. So I'll show that to you in a minute. And as well, if your race is part of one of our series, Classic, Celebration, or Youth, when we promote those series, that drives traffic to your event. So say we're promoting the Classic series, that means people pull up the MRA PDF, they look at the Classic series, they're like, I need more points. That means I got to do this race, and that's how they register for your race. So there's lots of those interconnections, which many of you are probably aware of, but I wanted to mention. Your events can also be noted in email blasts directly from the MRA, can be promoted in On the Run newsletter. As I've said about 10 times already, we can distribute promotional material and swag at other events which we host and participate at. So that can be race days for other races, race kit pickups for other races, MRA pop-ups, thank you Aldo, and the Manitoba Marathon Fit Expo. I'm not sure, even just attending our own pop-up booth when I was racing in events this year, I would go over and see Aldo and Kathy before I was on the executive, and I would say, what's next, what's next? And they would tell me, oh, you've got to sign up for this, you've got to sign up for that. And by the end of the year, Kathy was saying, maybe you don't need to sign up for all of the races. But the point is, FOMO is real, and it really works to have those things available for people to see and hold and touch and talk about. Like I said, we can also connect you with other networks, formal and informal. Word of mouth is huge, and we want to continue to help you promote your races in the best way possible. So let me just really quickly go to some of these things I was talking about. So here is our social media. And if you scroll down, you'll see that I've been posting lots of things lately. This is actually the view for the, I've just been posting things for our Hall of Fame. That's coming up in next April, but the nominations just closed last week. So I've been creating reels, posting about membership, that sort of thing. So if you're not already following us on social media, Facebook, please do. But here I am posting about the Classic series, the Celebration series, sorry, and the medals that we're going to be presenting at our awards night. So these are ways to get your race into the minds of people by leaping onto these kinds of conversations. We also have, this is the PDF that I was talking about that Kathy's going to be creating in February. That will be presented at, this will basically be sitting on the table whenever the MRA is at an event. So if your race is there, then it gets seen. Sorry, I can't see my screen because there's the Facebook again. I've got the tools for the, for Zoom at the top, and they're covering up my tabs. So here's our Instagram. If you follow us on Instagram, you'll know that I post a lot, but if you go scroll back a little bit to race season, you'll see that I posted about the Linden Woods event, Ted's Run for Literacy, the Goodway Run. Here we are. That's not PhysioFit. Sorry, there's Kathy and Aldo, and there's Kleefeld Honey Run. So I share as many things as I possibly can. I go to most of the events. I ran in most of these events this year. But you don't have to, I don't have to physically be there to post about your event. You can send me posts and I will post them. And here's the link tree I was talking about. So in our Instagram, there's a, you know, that link in bio people talk about, there's a link right under our Instagram profile. And we create and put links in here that people can go directly to. So you don't have to copy and paste the link and go find it. If you wanted to buy tickets or register for something, you can go just to our link in bio, takes you to our link tree. Say you wanted to buy tickets for our award celebration, which you probably should. And you can go right into that. So there's nothing stopping us from posting your event in our link tree so that people can then access it directly through their social media without having to go to the website. So lots of interesting options. I'll close it off there, having thrown all this information at you. We are going to send you this PDF that I showed earlier so that you'll have the links and things like that available. I would recommend, it also has my contact information on it, which I'll also pop in the chat, but you can follow me on social media. You can follow me at Jessica_Dracul_runnings if you like. Message me privately, that's fine too. Follow me on social media at Manitoba Runners. And just message me anything you would like to share, or reach out to me via text and have a conversation. Like I said, I'm going to be a race director as well this year. I am learning from you, and I am more than happy to have conversations about what you would like me to do to help you. And I think it's going to be an amazing year. And the more time I get to spend on social media, the happier I am. So thanks so much for listening. Any questions?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Jessica? Okay.
Not a question, but just the tremendous reach you have. I'll definitely be reaching out to you in regards to just getting the word out from committee members. We've had a hard time trying to fill in
Yes.
some spots, and yeah, your reach will certainly help us out with that, I'm sure.
I also like the runners' positive peer pressure, which I feel like this group really, you should volunteer for Ted's Run. They're really looking for people. I swear, Lorraine is just a god with that sort of thing. So I love the fact that we can count on each other for that. So I'd love to help you out.
Good. Okay. So just let me bring this up again. Our next item, except that I'm having the same trouble as Jessica, where everything's covered up. Okay. Now I'm going to do a presentation on what I've been alluding to a couple times already, and that is Run as Yourself, Controlling Unauthorized Bib Trading. And this is a program that was developed by the MRA a number of years ago with the help of race directors, MRA members, and board directors. And what it does is it addresses the problem of unauthorized bib trading, which is the giving, trading, or selling of a bib to someone else that is not officially registered for the event. So they're wearing someone else's bib in the event. And you would be surprised how often this goes on without your knowledge. It is a very difficult thing to pinpoint. And so what I'm going to do is I am just going to show you when we first developed this program, Aldo Ferlin and Chris Walton from the running room were generous with their time and everything else, their creativity. And what they did was they developed or created a video. And I'm just looking for it now. I think it might be on this screen. Okay, that's my document. I had it open here. Hang on. Technical difficulties. Okay, that's my document. I had YouTube up here. Is it here? My Zoom screen. Yes, there it is. Okay.
Taking part in a road race can represent a moment which speaks to your hard work and perseverance, a celebration and goal to challenge yourself. Runners are often maximizing their efforts and times to get into the best races they can. However, injuries or obligations can often take you out of the race. Sometimes runners will try to get in or out of different races. Sometimes they'll do anything.
You look like a guy in desperate need for a bib, am I right? I need a number. What do you need? We got all kinds of numbers. What do you need? We got 5K, we got 10K. I need 21.1 if you got the balls.
Yeah, so how do we proceed?
Well, you know what? I only do 5 and 10K. If you want 21, go see the boss at the end of the bar.
So, you want to run a half? How do I know you ain't got a DNF on me? I don't just sell to any old Usain Bolt that waltzes in off the street. I don't know you.
Good for it. Check my results.
All I got left is Emily T. Sure, anything. Okay, speedster, suit yourself.
What about pins?
To the bar next to the nuts.
Hey, careful of those, pal. You don't want to prick yourself.
Have a great race, Emily T. We all know that bib trading happens and probably doesn't look like this. But when you either sell your bib or give it away to someone else without telling the race directors, it can cause problems not just for the race, but for the other runners as well.
The person buying or receiving the bib will not have gone through the registration process, which means event organizers will not have emergency contact information, and the new participant will not have read potentially important event info and will not receive last-minute notifications.
They will also compromise race results, which is not fair. When you run with a bib that's not yours, you earn a time for the original bib owner, which is cheating. When you run with a bib that's not yours, you may earn an official time in the wrong age class or gender, meaning you're stealing recognition from the actual winners of these categories. Lying, stealing, cheating, it's just not worth the risk to your reputation. Run as yourself.
Simply put, whether you are interested in receiving a recorded time or not, only registered race participants with bib numbers assigned to them will be allowed on any race course.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with selling your bib to another participant. Maybe you've got an injury or your plans have had to change suddenly. However, there is a proper way to do this that won't interfere with race organization or compromise results. Each race will have different transferring procedures, so reach out to a race organizer and do it the right way.
That's not Emily T. I know Emily T. Cheat! Fraud! You're a fraud! Fraud! Fraud!
I'm fake Emily.
What a shame. I'm Kathy Weems, Executive Director of the Manitoba Runners Association, and I approve this message. And please, run as yourself.
Okay, that's a humorous take on a serious problem.
Here's one thing you need to do before buying anything online. Don't spend another dime on Amazon.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's going on?
I can show you how to get this.
Your YouTube's still playing.
Yeah, hang on. I'm just pulling it up. We don't need to know this guy. I can't get out of here. There we go.
At least it's
I
trying
have to
to
tell you, I
running
kept the
stuff.
only prop that was from that video.
What's that? Oh, the bib. Yeah, like I said, that was a humorous take on a serious problem in road racing, and it extends from the smallest events up to the very biggest events in the world. And we realize that this isn't something that can be stopped entirely, but the MRA wants to enlist race directors' help in trying to do as much as we can for this problem. I'll just share, there is a document that we have that was created at the same time as the video. And I did send this out in the package to all of you. And this first page was what we sent to race directors so that you would have a better idea of what the program was about and why it is so important. So first of all, the concerns that Run As Yourself does direct or address, I should say, is that there is no signed waiver from the person that is not running as themselves, is running as someone else. And as Derek indicated, waivers are a really important part of the coverage that you have for yourself and your event. There's also the safety issue because we have no emergency information for that person. So if you collect even an contact person for your event, when they do their registration, you won't have the correct contact information. The credibility of the event and the timer comes into question because statistics, age group winners, qualifying times for other events, they're all suspect. And this has happened where people are trying to qualify for a big event like Chicago or Boston, and that requires a qualifying time. And so they get someone else to run for them that's faster than them. But it also means that people who, let's say they should have won their age group, but a man running as a woman or a faster person than the actual person is getting the recognition for winning the age group instead of the person that actually did. So it does affect our results. So what can a race director do in order to try and curb this practice? The first thing, of course, is to offer and advertise that you're offering a clear bib transfer process. Most registration sites offer the ability to perform this option for you, so it's not something that you have to do yourself. What happens is the two people get together, they decide, are they selling it, giving it, whatever, but then all of it is recorded with the event through the bib transfer process. There's usually a small fee associated with that. You can charge like $5, $10 to cover any costs that the registration site might charge for the for doing this for you. But it is worthwhile having a bib transfer process so that if a person gets injured and can't take part, they can sell or give their bib to someone else, go through the transfer process so that the event has all the information that it needs for the person that's actually using that bib. The other thing that we ask, as I mentioned before when I was going through the sanctioning package, is to include some kind of a button or a question that the person has to agree to so that it brings it to their attention that you know about this practice and that you're trying to do something about it. And that goes for your paper registration as well as your online registration. The other thing that we ask is that you inform the MRA if you become aware of any unauthorized bib trading. If someone else in your event comes to you and says, that person wasn't entered in your event, that they were running with someone else's bib, try to get as much information as you can about the person who sold the bib and the person who actually used it, and we will take it from there. We have a set of letters that I sent out. There's 3 levels of letters. The first letter that we send out to people, if you're concerned about, the confrontation side of things, the first letter we send out is strictly informational. We assume that the person was not aware that they were doing something wrong, and so we are trying to educate them on the fact that yes, that you've done something wrong, this is not allowed, and this is how to do it if you want to give your bib to someone else in the future. And then if we have repeat offenders, we do keep track of anyone that's brought to our attention and we're able to confirm has actually done this. And sometimes it's with photos that are taken at events or Strava information. We can usually find a lot, especially through pictures, we can pretty well know right away if someone has run as someone else. And then if you can also spread the word by using the button or question on your registration, include the information on your website. If there are any clinics that go on related to your event, please bring it up as one of the things that you're not allowed to do. It's important that you do offer a clear bib transfer process as an alternative to this, so that people can sell their bibs, especially if you are capping your event. Then it's good for you too, because if someone has registered and your event reaches its cap, then you're going to have less people actually attending your event if people get injured. This way they can do this legally, they can transfer their bib to someone else, and you have more people coming out to your event. There's more information here. If you have any questions about it, please contact me. But we just ask that you please support the MRA in keeping our sport fair for everyone by spreading the word any way that you can. Okay. I'm just trying to see. Yes, Jen has come on, so that is good. Because the next person that we've got presenting, I'll just bring up my slides here. Oh, I'm going to stop share there. Okay. All right. So Jen has a presentation. Jen is a former race director, runs Sage Creek, Kicking Pancreas. She was involved with Run for Your Cause last year. So she has a lot of experience as a race director and setting up registration. And she particularly has a lot of experience working with Race Roster. So I'd asked her to share some information about making the most of Race Roster. So I'll turn it over to you, Jen.
Thank you, Kathy. So I am coming to you from Hamilton, where I'm here for the Grey Cup and have stepped out of a Grey Cup brunch to give you this presentation. So I hope it is useful, and I will talk fast because I know that I have a lot to communicate and there's a lot of information here to share. So I have, as Kathy said, been involved in a few different races as a race director, or at least on the back end organizing. I've also participated as a runner in events that use different registration platforms. And if you don't use Race Roster, I hope after this you will at least take a look at it, because it is by far my favorite from both sides of that. I see lots of familiar names here. I'm just going to move my screen so I can see my content. There we go. So I have done a few different ones. I've assisted on others. I'm currently a race director for a winter triathlon. If you have never tried it, please check us out. And I'm very organized and learn as I go and teach myself. So much of what I've learned that I'm about to show you has been trial and error, or seeing a feature on another race and going, wait a second, I want to do that. How do I do that? And no doubt you, having used Race Roster, would have other tips to share. So if there's something that I don't cover and you think everybody else should use, it's probably not obvious. So tell them, because the easier we can make it for everybody, the better. So if you've never used Race Roster or don't know about its origins, it's an online event registration platform. It was developed by people who were runners themselves, a sort of like a runner, a developer, and an event organizer kind of got together and thought, the product we want to use doesn't exist, so let's make it. It works on mobile quite well, although there isn't an app, but the browser version on mobile is highly functional. And it is a great solution for you as race director, for athletes, for fundraising, volunteer management, and more. So on we go. So easy is good for everybody. So the easier you can make it at all stages of your planning and delivery, the better it is. You're going to minimize questions. You're going to minimize frustrations for yourself, for athletes. And if you are uncomfortable with any aspect of setting things up, taking some time now to do it, even if it's a little tricky, is probably going to be worth your time. And future, you will be glad that you did, because it's easy. Everything works as it's supposed to, and as you wish it did. It probably is a built-in function in Race Roster. So some features, I'm not really going to tell you how to do these features, but more present what features exist so that you can go and dig into this more. Please affiliate with the MRA. And what I mean by that is, we know that when you have a registration fee over a certain amount, you're required to give a discount to MRA members. The easiest way for everybody is if you set up Race Roster as an affiliated event with the MRA, and then Race Roster cross-checks the participant who's registering and only will grant that discount to people who are MRA members. This promotes MRA membership as a benefit, and if someone hasn't gotten their membership yet, they can check out and buy it at the same time they're registering for your event. So you can increase membership with the MRA, as well as making it easier for people to get their discount. One thing I would suggest you do is customizing this button here that I've circled, that on this one in purple says join the MRA, but that's not the default. Once you request to affiliate with the MRA, Kathy gets the request and has to approve it. It's not an instant thing. It's probably called MRA 2024 or something like that. You maybe already addressed this, Kathy. And then after that has happened, you can customize the text on that button. Instead of saying join club, which might be confusing for runners if they think they can't participate in your event if they're not part of the club. If you change it to say join the MRA, then it's a little bit of a smoother flow for everybody. So either you already have, or you're going to set out instructions that I gave you, Kathy, for that. But it's pretty easy to do, and you can customize a lot of the text on Race Roster, actually. Okay, so another thing you can do is pricing management. So there are a couple different options for how you can set your pricing structures. Scheduled by date, so that's the most common one, I would say, with an early bird rate and then a regular rate or a late rate. You can break it down however many tiers as you want. But there's also something to consider called block pricing, where you set tiers at a certain price, and as those tiers sell out, the price goes up. So if you want to sort of launch your registration with a bang, you can have a flash sale, and first 25 registrants get a certain price. You don't know when that 25 will be hit. So there's a bit of a motivator to register sooner rather than later. So I would suggest do incentivize and advertise in a way that gets you more registrations earlier, and be very careful offering late coupons or deals that might cause someone to regret having registered early because they didn't know there'd be a discount or a sale later, which is tricky to balance. If you're trying to boost your numbers later in your registration period, you might want to motivate people, but people remember that for the next year, and maybe will hold off on registering if they think, well, last year, if I hadn't registered 3 months early, I could have gotten a better deal because they offered this discount. So just tie your pricing structures to any social media promotions or any cutoffs you have for ordering things, and try and bump those numbers earlier rather than later. Race Roster can easily work with your color scheme and brand your whole page. You don't need to know your hex colors on your logo. If you don't even know what that is that I just said, don't worry about it. Race Roster will pick up the color in your logo and style your page so that it has a really nice look to it. Prioritize high contrast color combinations. It makes it easier for people to read. Remember that most people are registering from their phones, so easy to read is important. And if your logo isn't a square or a circle, make it one before uploading it so it displays properly on all devices. If your rectangle, or if your logo is a rectangle and you upload it, it's going to cut it off and it's not going to look very good. So, I mean, my 10-year-old could do this on her phone and plop a logo on a square image and then just give that file to upload. So if you're just uploading as a square to start with, and then Race Roster can take it from there. You can build in participant waivers. It's easy to customize the MRA waiver with your own details. And then Race Roster will auto-populate your online waiver as needed with their event info and participant name. There are also options for building in teams, families, or minors needing parental consent waivers. There are a few different settings for how you do that. So take a look at those. You can customize your registration questions, which is, there are some default ones that you can check or uncheck whether you want them even in there, but you can save yourself a lot of time and frustration by choosing deliberate registration questions and collecting only the information that you need. You can specify which questions apply to which sub-events. So if you're only, if you're only doing waves for the 5K, you can ask only the 5K registrants what wave they want to be in, like a different start time. Word them in a way that's really clear and that's going to give you information that is useful to your event on the other end. And if you don't need information, if you don't need someone's address, or if you don't need a specific piece, you don't ask it. Like, streamline and clear up that registration process, and then you're collecting less data as well to have to manage. You can group and organize sub-events. Try and think about how is somebody going to come to your event and what makes the most sense for them to find what they're looking for. Don't put the same event at different price points as sub-events. So if you have a 5K early bird and a 5K regular, those are all one sub-event. You're just going to deal with that price difference in the pricing structure. So your sub-events would be 10K, 10K virtual, or 5K, 5K family. So think about how you want to group them and make it logical so that someone comes and can find what they're after instead of missing it and then leaving your registration page and not coming to your event. You can use Race Roster to do email campaigns, and you don't have to have it set up right away. I know sometimes when we open registration, we don't have all of the details quite yet. Maybe you haven't decided on your race kit pickup location or times. That's okay. But you can set up a variety of different email campaigns from right within Race Roster and set different triggers. So maybe if somebody registers for a 5K, they're going to get a certain email. If they register for a 10K, they'll get a different email, or you can group it however you want. And I would highly recommend that you do email participants straight out of Race Roster, because then you're talking to participants. I once missed some information because months ago I had opted out of a marketing email, and that race was doing all of their race information out of MailChimp or Constant Contact or one of those. And I was like, I don't know anything about this race, my emails, it's not in my junk mail. And I ended up contacting them, and it took a few days, but they said, oh, you opted out of this last year. I'm like, well, I opted out of the marketing. I didn't opt out of my confirmed race registration information. So if you keep it within your platform, you're only talking to participants, and that it's a cleaner flow of information. And it does adhere to anti-spam laws because you're talking to someone with a contract with you, so you don't have to worry about that. You can also use Race Roster for swag or merchandise management, whether you're selling it or giving it at the time of registration. You can also turn on the store so that people come back and shop after they've already registered. If they decide, oh, actually, I do want a shirt, they can come back and just add it to their already existing registration. There's no back and forth with you. You can set up variations for size, color, style, just like an actual store, and track inventory. So for example, my shirt order has to go in December 1st, but registration is still open until January 30th. That's okay. I'm going to bump up my shirt numbers, and I'm going to know how many smalls, mediums, larges I've ordered. I know how many are already spoken for, and I can track the inventory for any remainders. So people who continue to register have the remaining stock to choose from, and once it's gone, it's gone. You can also limit swag to certain sub-events. If only the 3K family has to choose between a ball cap or a buff, you only apply the option to get that merch through the 3K family sub-event. And please provide a size chart, whether it's an image as your product image or a link to the specs for the merchandise that you're offering. As a participant, I hate having to guess. I'm paying for this in my registration, even if I'm not buying a shirt separately. And then more often than not, the shirt doesn't fit because I didn't know for that particular brand, how does the women's large fit versus a medium? And often we don't have enough flexibility in our races to be able to trade. So if you've already got a situation with a supplier, they can give you that size chart for the merchandise that you're offering. You can manage fundraising in Race Roster. There is a fee for this, but there's a fee no matter what you use, whether it's PayPal or something else. You can set it up so the donor pays the fee. So for a $50 donation, there'd be, I don't know, like a $2 or $3 charge on top of that the donor is going to cover. It's very easy to set up in Race Roster, and then participants can go and publicize their own fundraising page on their own social media, etc. Race Roster handles all of the paying out. If your cause is a registered charity, there's a bit of a process to get that approved, but then you can also, Race Roster will handle automatically sending income tax receipts. So again, really easy for everybody. That I would give yourself probably 2 weeks for that whole process to go through, and they have to verify that it's a registered charity, etc. But once it's done, it's very straightforward. And I caught the end of your presentation, Kathy, about running as yourself. Race Roster makes this easy. It's managed all within Race Roster. You can add a little button onto the sidebar that says transfer, and then it's so straightforward. It's almost free. They recommend as you're setting it up that you set at least a $2 transfer fee to cover it so that you're not out the money. But it's secure, it's straightforward. They handle the process and they handle the funds. So you don't have to be, again, no back and forth with you because you have a million other things to do. You can recruit and manage volunteers. So you can advertise jobs. You need 10 in this role and 5 in this role. And when they're filled, they're no longer an option to choose. You can add a volunteer button to your landing page, volunteer waivers, and you can do email campaigns for volunteers as well. So they're not getting the same information as your runners. You're doing a volunteer specific email. Other features to explore, because I'm probably out of time, you can do coupon codes for free event registrations or discounted or merchandise. You can give your timer access to your event. I've never personally done that, but I know it is a thing in here. You can put event caps. You don't you're not over capacity, whether it's a sub event or your total event. You can almost build this out like a web page. You don't need a separate website because you can add sections onto your landing page of frequently asked questions or maps. You can display sponsor logos if you have them. You can have it pull in your social media feed, and you can link to or upload results. So I can't think of anything that Race Roster doesn't do that I wish it did. But if there ever is something, they have really excellent support, whether it's in their library, which you can search. You can contact them, and I've had follow up by phone or email, and they're very, very good. And if there is a feature that you want that doesn't exist, ask them, and they'll take it to their team. And it's probably not in time for this year, but you never know. But they put it out to their development team, and they build it. And so next year, maybe they will be able to do exactly what you need. And I just blurted that all out super fast. Does anybody have any questions? Or Kathy, do we have time for questions? Oh, you're muted.
There. Yes, we have time
There we
for
go.
questions, Jen.
Okay. And I will pause for a drink of water there because I just talk nonstop. Does anybody have any other feature that I don't even know about yet and you think everybody else should know about and explore and use?
Well, one thing that I would mention as well is that one of the nice things about Race Roster is that if you want to make a change to your page, you don't have to submit that change to the registration company and then wait for them to get the change done. You can do all the changes yourself. You have access to the back end of like you can build the whole thing yourself, or you can get help with building it. And if you want to change like the date of your race packet pickup or something like that, you can do that immediately yourself, and it's immediately viewable by the public. So that makes it a lot easier to use, I think.
For sure. Yes, you're in charge of it all, which sounds both intimidating and great. So the setup is also really straightforward. It walks you through in a logical fashion, and it doesn't let you skip important parts. And they're also, I've asked them before, like, I can't figure out how to do this or how to get around this. What am I doing wrong? And they're usually back to me within 24 hours of, we've looked at your event and this, and this. Either they teach me how to do it or they just fix it for me.
Yeah, I've found the same thing. And also what I found that is really cool is that if there's something that you want to do and they don't really have that option available, they will find a way around it so that, if they can, so that you can do what you want to do. And then they send it to their IT team, say, this is needed. And they then create that new feature or function for the Race Roster platform. And I've seen a lot of things like that where like even small things that I've requested. And Jen was the one that contacted Race Roster about their gender versus sex designations. And that whole change in their website where you can choose either gender or sex and it's all described. That was Jen that got that change on Race Roster. So, don't hesitate to talk to them. And if there's something you need, to tell them, I can't find a way of doing this on your site. Is this something you can build for the future? And they'll try.
Okay, no questions, or people are just thinking. Maybe we blew their minds, or maybe you're overwhelmed and scared. Don't be, it's great. It's easy. Definitely easier on a laptop.
Sorry, I have a question. So I'm in Niverville, and I know back in the day, so I've been here about 10 years, and there was a run that happened here. It was Imagine. I forgot what it was called, so sorry. But anyways, it doesn't happen anymore. And there's Candace is my partner, but she had to leave. We want to start something up back in Niverville. And this is kind of like a little overwhelming. How long did it take to make to the erase day to have something, everything in order? Just kind of curious on how this kind of works, because we're really, eager to get this done, but we don't want to be rushing things and forgetting things at the same time.
I would say start building as soon as you have some details. You can get in there and set up certain parts of it. And then depending on how complicated you want to get, if you don't have any merch, you don't have to activate that piece. If you're not going to deal with volunteers yet, you don't have to do it all at once. So I would give yourself, probably the first time you sit down and look at it, I would give yourself at least an hour uninterrupted to sort of work your way through the steps that are logical and sequential. And then you can save it and come back and keep building. And you can look at it as a participant before it goes live as well. So you can sort of see what it looks like from the front versus the back end. And you can add pieces as you go. They have it broken up into, okay, these are the baseline pieces that you have to have in place before it goes live. But then there's all these other things that you can enable later and stack on as you get closer to your event. And okay. I wouldn't try and build this on a phone. You can register as a participant pretty easily on a phone, but I I have once, I think, in an emergency logged in on my phone, but it makes me nervous because it's not, everything's not in the same place, and then it's just I can't see it as well. It stresses me out. But on a computer or a laptop, it's they hold your hand, virtually hold your hand all the way through, and you can save it and come back. And nothing's live or public until you say that it is.
Okay, thank you so much.
I have one comment on the timer bit. If you want the timer to upload the results, you have to add them to your event so they have access to your event. Otherwise, we cannot. I'm one of the timers for the MRA. Otherwise, we cannot upload the events to race or the results to race roster.
Yeah, and it's an easy
That's good to know.
process to do that, to add timer access. It's you do it the same way you would give anyone authorization or access to your page from the back end. If you need any help with that, I can absolutely help you with that. But it is handy because then, like Jen said, you can use Race Roster. You don't necessarily need a website. You can use Race Roster as your website. It has all the capabilities and information that a website would have. And putting your results, as Jim said, up on Race Roster means that you don't have to, if you don't have a website, you'll still have a place to put your results. We do upload all your results on the MRA website once they're official. So it might take a day or two before they go up on our website because there are often changes. People contact the race and there's things that get left out or whatever. We wait till the changes are made, but you can get your results uploaded to Race Roster immediately by your timer if they have access. Like we have access because we work through Race Roster, but you can give any timer access to your event to do that.
If you don't have a website and you are using this as your page, keep track of what you put in which section, like just open a Word doc or a Google Doc and just keep track. So next year, you don't have to rebuild anything. You're just going to copy and paste it back in because every year is a new Race Roster event. You can clone last year's, which is also a great feature. You don't have to rebuild it from scratch from year to year. You can just copy last year's and then make your changes with your dates and your details.
I have a question
Lorraine,
regarding.
you look like you're going to talk. Yes.
Yes, I have a question regarding processing fees. Jan, really good presentation. It really brings a lot of clarity to a lot of issues. It's quite a shocker when you go to register for any event and you see that extra fee. So my question has to do with education for people, participants at large, because I have lots of friends who will say, oh, wow. When it was all said and done, the bottom line was pretty hefty. So I'm wondering if there's some way that we could educate runners so that they know what they're actually paying for. And secondly, how are those fees adjusted? So is it based on numbers of participants? How does it become the number that it is?
I haven't looked at that lately. I think it's a flat percentage based on however many participants you have. I don't know if you hit a certain threshold of a really large event, if it changes. I've never been in that position.
It's a flat,
but
it is a percentage, Jen, plus a flat fee per participant.
Oh, like exactly like PayPal, which is like 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction or something like that. So yeah. I guess I would say to that, so you can do it two ways. You can either set your fee to your own like advertised registration fee to hide that processing fee, and then it's incorporated so the runner just pays $60 but you take 52 of it. I don't know if that math is probably wrong, but you get my point. Or education around, I mean, if Race Roster is not doing this facilitation, then somebody is, and it's manual and it's way more work. So I think you make a good point there about, the ease of use is worth something. And most of us, if not all of us, are volunteers in our roles. And so we have a limited capacity and time for the events that we put on. So I'm not sure what the messaging would be there, but you do get quite a lot of access and streamline and information, smooth flow for being able to use this kind of platform. I don't, maybe it's a sign of the times that I'm not sure anybody would be too surprised by a processing fee with like all of the tip culture and everything that's happening. Maybe for certain events, it would make more sense to incorporate the fee and hide it so it doesn't look like there is that processing fee and you're just paying a flat rate. And that is an option in Race Roster if you prefer not to have somebody do that on top. I don't know if that's a good answer, if there is a good answer to that.
Yeah, I think it is, Jen. And yeah, it's very simple to do when you're setting up. It asks you whether you want the processing fees, whether you want the participant to pay the processing fees, or whether you as the event are paying the processing fees. So if you chose for the event, the event to be looking after the processing fees, then you would just up your entry fee to cover that. And then, as Jen said, you wouldn't see an online processing fee. So that's up to you how you want to do that. I think most people now are so used to having to pay an online processing fee because we do so much online now, and any service is, we know it's not free. Whether it's hidden or not, the service is not free. But yeah, and yet you could include information on your registration site or your website saying that the online processing fee is included in the entry fee, so that they know that that processing fee still exists, but it's included in your entry fee. Great. Thank you so much, Jen.
Yes.
Jen's husband is one of the refs for the Grey Cup this year.
Oh.
So that's why she's out in
That's why I'm
Hamilton
here.
and having a blast. So send our congratulations to your husband. That'll be really cool.
Thank you. It'll be a great game tomorrow.
Yes, yes. And especially with Manitoba playing, it's terrific.
I'm cheering for the officials. I'm not allowed to have an affiliation on this weekend, but
a couple things that I wanted to mention. As the system said, I am recording this, and the whole meeting will be up on the MRA website under the Race Director tab. So if you want to go back through and listen to it again, or just want to listen to part of it, you can do that. And that goes for what all the presentations will be on there, everything. I just want to show you something. I'm just going to pull this up. Where's my okay. One of the things that I had sent out to everyone is this document called Resources for Race Directors. And I get a lot of emails from race directors going, who would you suggest that we look at locally for medals, or where do we go for this information, or where can I rent porta potties, and anything that comes up with regards to your event. This document I created is a resource for everything that I've come across to date. And if I come across more things, I add it to this document. So this is the 2024 one. If you are holding an event within the city of Winnipeg and you need information about planning your event, looking into whether or not you need a permit for your event, or whether you need a noise permit, anything, food, you know, if you're serving food, your first person for contact is Scott Stewart at the city of Winnipeg, and he's very helpful. Plus, I've listed a number of links if you want to know if there's going to be construction on your route, that sort of thing, what community centers, what they offer. There's also information here about City of Winnipeg parks. And just to clarify, Assiniboine Park is not a city park. It is looked after by Assiniboine Park Conservancy. So most city parks, you will contact the City of Winnipeg about booking, but for Assiniboine Park, you will contact the Conservancy. The Forks, there are 2 organizations that look after the Forks, and very often both organizations require a third-party certificate of our insurance in order for you to have your event there. And I can order third-party certificates for you. If anyone requests one, we can give you one. You don't have to get permits for the City of Winnipeg because they get a copy of our race calendar and they get a copy of our insurance policy. So they know which events are covered and they know exactly what the coverage is. So you don't have to get anything for the City of Winnipeg. If you need traffic services, such as cones or barricades put up, there's a number of different companies in the city where you can rent that sort of stuff from. I've got a number of places that you can go for medical services, places you can go for timing services, event registration. If you want a master of ceremonies, and these people don't charge as a rule. They're quite happy to help out. You can contact any of them directly. If you're looking for water for your event, there's a couple places there. Bibs, Boulder Bibs, it used to be Road ID. They've sort of gone out of the bib business, but they've transferred it over to Boulder Bibs. That is in the States. Bibnumbers.com is another one. Intrepid Design is here locally, and they can source bibs, either generic or custom for you. Massage Athletica is one of our sponsors. They sponsor our youth race series, and they often will supply massage therapy services at your event if you request it at no charge. Music services, if you want to have a music man of some kind at your event, there's places you can go. Photography services, bike valet, portable toilets. And then, of course, medals, trophies, and engraving. I've put which ones are local and which ones are in the US. And they can help you with all kinds of medals, trophies, plaques, whatever it is that you want to get done. And I think that's it there. And I'm just going to show you where to find, I'm going to close my tabs. And okay, just want to, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, I'm just getting rid of things here off of my screen so that I can show you what I want to show you. Because I didn't open up my my website, and I would like to share that with you. Because I want to show you where to find things. Because I get asked a lot of questions that we actually have answers for on our website. Okay, there's our website. And if you go to MRA resources, you'll get a drop down. And in that drop down is race directors. And if you go to that tab, there's our race directors meeting that was advertised online, and that's where you're going to find the recording of this meeting when I get it set up. It tells you all about sanctioning and the benefits of sanctioning with the MRA. And then there's a bunch of forms and links to information on this page. And the very first one is that document that I sent you, Resources for Race Directors. There's also the tips for using Race Roster that Jen Shapka put together that I sent out to you, but that's here too. The sanctioning agreement. If you just want a copy of the equipment order form, it's there. The equipment management document is there. Waiver samples are there. There's also the COVID information if that rears its ugly head again. There's tools. There's how to plan events. All kinds of things are here. Just about everything that you're going to need. So please make note of that that tab on our website. It can be very valuable for information. And if there's anything that you will ever think that should be added to it that I've missed, let me know and I'll get that added. There's also, was there anything else? Yeah, Race Director HQ is a website. It's from the States, but it also has a lot of valuable information about putting on an event. So I would highly encourage you to have a look at that site as well for any information that you're looking for regarding putting on your event. Oh, thank you to whoever put that up. Was that you, Derek? Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah, he's put it up in the chat, the link to Race Directors HQ. So I don't know if I haven't noticed any other. Amber did add a note here about how there are Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers available to offer opening prayers or doing the land acknowledgements for events, if that's something that you might want. Maybe we could, Amber, you could send me a link of how a person would go about getting that, if they were getting information about that, and I can put it up on our race director page.
Yeah, I can offer mine, and then I don't know, like in terms of Indigenous elders for like Indigenous Women and Girls Run or the Reconciliation Run, they would have different contacts than I would have, but just as a setting a precedent for how we move forward with some of our events, that would be good to have just as resources.
Thank you. That's terrific. So were there any other questions about anything that's been discussed here today, or questions that you had just in general? Bridget?
Hi, Kathy. Hi, everyone. I just had a quick question about weather. So I know obviously the Minneapolis Marathon was cancelled at 5:30 on the day of the race. We had a very hot day for a Manitoba Marathon a while back. And I was just wondering, are there any guidelines, like standards, that Manitoba or Canada has with respects to, you know, weather and when to cancel events?
Yeah, I wish we had Rachel from Manitoba Marathon here, because she would be the expert on that after what happened last year at the Manitoba Marathon. The big events, most of them use a system called the wet bulb, which measures temperature, measures humidity, but it also measures like radiant heat off of the pavement, which really is telling you whether the sun is out in full force or not. There's a number of ways that that is measured. And then there are standards for wet bulb, but it does depend. Like, I don't believe the standards that were used in Minneapolis are the same as the standards that were used here. Andrew, do you have any information about that from, like, Andrew works for Doctors Manitoba, and do you have any information, because it's mostly to do with liability?
Yeah, no, I can't really answer that question, Kathy.
Yeah, I'll try and get some more information about that for you all, because there are a lot of factors that are taken into account when it's not just temperature or just humidex. There is more that's taken into account, and it does seem to be becoming more of a problem in North America and Europe, I know. Our weather is changing, and so I'll look into that, and I'll get back to you.
Kathy,
Yeah.
Kathy, there's also a question of lightning, because I remember a number of years ago, Headingley was delayed.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the criteria for that is, but
well,
throw that out
what
there.
I've told most people about lightning is Triathlon Manitoba has and triathlon in general has a standard for lightning, and that is that if there's a lightning flash, you have to hold off, wait 20 minutes. If there is no other lightning flash in that 20 minutes, then you can begin your event. But if there's another lightning flash, then you start the clock again. Now, they are particularly wary of it because, of course, they're sending people out into open lakes, which is very dangerous when it comes to lightning, because your head is the tallest thing out there. But I've told people that a general rule of thumb that probably works pretty well. It has not happened often, but it has happened. And there isn't any definitive standard for it, but there, again, I'll look into it. I think, Derek, you've put something up there from Athletics Ontario.
Yeah, this is actually the Athletics Canada Road Race Director's Guide. It's probably would not be the first thing that I would read if I was starting out, but if I ever had these questions about, like at 26.8 degrees Celsius, what action should I take? You're going to find it in here. It's very, very detailed information, but just Googling sort of extreme warm weather, extreme conditions and whatnot, they've got a whole section in that in the guide. And because it comes from Athletics Canada, it's very consistent with what we would follow for our own race guidelines.
Right. Because whether you realize it or not, because road running is it's an athletics event along with cross country, trail, track and field. And so we're governed by Athletics Manitoba and in turn Athletics Canada.
Just like say I've used the wet bulb, handheld wet bulb machine. We used it for the 10 and 10 this year. In the case of Manitoba last year, I'm one of the course supervisors, and we hit humidex of 42 at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is why they canceled the race. It was actually medical that shut the race down. That's obviously very high. Minneapolis was quite a bit lower than that, I think. I remember seeing the post they did. There is as far as I know, there is a standard for lightning. There has to be no lightning strikes within a certain amount of time. Before, I know in 2016, Manitoba was almost postponed because of thunder showers overnight. It was a near thing. I don't know if that helps anybody, but there is machines to test the wet bulb thing. It's not like the old days where they actually used a wet bulb. Again, I don't know if that helped, but it's a little tidbit anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. And Derek's put another link up there just to our own safety guidelines. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much to
Sorry,
everyone that
sorry,
took
if I may
part.
just
Oh,
make a
sorry,
comment. It's fine.
Mauricio, yes.
I just wanted to circle back on the MCs. This year we had a last minute search for an MC, and we went with Steve, I believe his name is.
Yeah, Steve Scholes. Yeah, he was at your event.
Yeah. He was great. I highly recommend him. He was really awesome. He did have a fee though. It was $100, which is
Okay.
completely, totally worth it. So just an FYI.
Steve
Thanks,
also
Al.
did one of our school events a number of years ago too, and he was really quite good.
Yeah, we've used him too for Run for Your Cause and for our Hall of Fame one year. And he was our MC. And yeah, he does a really good job. And he's got a good sense of humor, which he brings into what he does. So, but Chrissy Troy, she has done Lindenwoods for many years, the Fall Classic. And Mandy Shue, she has done many events. I see her all over the place, and she's excellent as well. And neither of them, I believe, charge because it's a part of the outreach of their radio stations that they work for. But yeah, so anyway, thank you so much to all of you for taking part and asking questions, which is always good. I will say again, I am always available to answer any questions that you might have. You can contact me by phone or email or even text if you prefer, and I'll get back to you with answers and help if I can. And yeah, and I also thank the entire MRA board for the support that they give to both myself, but also to you. You don't know how much goes on behind the scenes, I guess is what I'm saying. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that help to create documents, make policies, that type of thing. And lastly, of course, thank you so much to the people that made the presentations, Jessica, Derek, Jen Shapka. It's wonderful that we can pull in people that can, that know a lot about the topics to help you. And I'm sure that any of them would welcome questions from you. If you need to contact them about something specific, you can do it through me. You can just contact me. So I will bring the meeting to a close, and I'll be, as I said, posting the recording online on the MRA website, and you've got all the information that I sent out to you. So please use the information. It's good information. Thanks very much. Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Jessica. And I had written that down, and did I look at it? No. We are asking, one of the awards that we give out at the Hall of Fame now is an Excellence in Volunteering Award. And you as race directors are the ones that are in closest contact with the volunteers, and you know which volunteers are especially good, have been around for years, give selflessly of their time to help you put on the great events that you do put on. So if you know of someone or would like to nominate someone for that award that we will be giving out at our Hall of Fame banquet on April 22nd, please send me just a short email saying why you think that this person is so valuable and why you think that they should be given an award as for their excellence in volunteering. And we are looking for people that have been around for quite a while and have, given of their time for a number of years to your events. So it can be someone that volunteers for one of your events or someone that you know of that volunteers throughout the road running community. We would really love to get those. It would be good if we could get them before the end of the year so that we can advertise the winner of that event. We're actually going to be deciding on our inductees in early December. And if we can also let everyone know who has been chosen for the Excellence in Volunteering Award at that time, that would be great. So please send in any suggestions that you might have with the reasons for your nomination. Thanks very much.